Oh, yes!
A rowdy start to the podcast.
Oh, yes. Deepwater MMA podcast coming at you once again from the sunny, the overcast shores of Fort Pierce, Florida. Palm trees out the window.
Slightly overcast today.
Slightly overcast. So big weekend, ahoy here. UFC 161, live from the Peg, as they say in Canada.
The Peg, is that what they say up there?
It's the Winnipeg.
Oh, it's the Peg over there.
Oh, it's over at the Peg. Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. But before we get to that, which is, it's a pretty excellent card. It's a little damaged, but it's still pretty excellent.
Should we tell people who we are?
Let's tell people who we are. Tell the people.
Who are we? Who are these freaks talking over your podcast, you know? Who are you listening to?
My name's Dan Kennard. This is Kale, the Connoisseur Loveridge. Don't sleep on the Connoisseur.
Do not sleep.
Which I think is actually a good place to start. I wanted to mention this.
Sleep is the cousin of death, sir.
That's right. Nice. Poetic. I like that.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Kale, the Connoisseur, called all 4 fights on last week's Fuel TV 10 card that we discussed, at least. Verdum got his win over Big Nog. Thiago Silva was the upset that you were very confident in.
Yeah, I knew it.
Yeah, looking back, I regret.
The fight went, the fight went just how I thought.
Toot your own horn,
Not
please.
to toot it too hard, but, the fight went the way I thought.
Yeah.
Cavalcante's got a history of gassing out, man.
Yeah.
He came strong, though. I couldn't take one of his punches.
No.
And Thiago took a ton of them in that first round.
Yeah.
And, it stopped in the first round, but he took a ton in that first round and eventually stopped him, but that was a great fight.
Yeah.
Great fight.
Awesome fight. Yeah, crazy knockout. Thiago Silva, but you called it. I think most people were on Cavalcante. They were all excited about Cavalcante, Thiago Silva.
For his debut.
Who knew what was going on with him anymore, Yeah. I thought he was a little...
He's been out for a while.
Past his prime or something. I didn't know what to expect from him, but he came out...
Great showing.
Came out like thunder. And
he looked great.
The bomb.
He
looked good.
If you're listening to the commentary, they were speaking about how technical he looked, how good, compared to in the past, how technical his striking has become, and he did. He was covering up good. Whenever Cavalcante would throw that right hand, he'd cover up.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about it too much, but it was a great fight.
Yeah, great fight. No, it was an awesome fight. You picked the winner of the Tough Brazil finale.
I kind of saw that one coming too, man.
Saw that one coming too. Yeah, it was pretty incredible showing there. I mean, there were 6 fights on the main card. We only really discussed 4 of them last week, but you picked all 4 right. Eric Silva beat Jason High in 37 seconds.
Yeah, that was a cool submission too.
Yeah,
man. He got him in a reverse triangle for a second, and he turned that reverse triangle into an armbar.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's like the dude when I play UFC online with somebody. And they just keep switching submissions over and over and over, and you can't get out of it. It's frustrating. I feel a little bit for Jason High because I expected a little more out of him. I didn't necessarily expect him to win, but I expected more of a fight from him. I wrote that up in my staff picks and all that. And
I think Eric Silva
did not go that way. Yeah.
I think Eric Silva is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I think so. He's 28 years old. Finally, he's taken enough beatings, with the John Fitch situation and all that stuff. He's shown himself to have all the tools. And if you're fighting John Fitch, he lost to John Fitch, but he had his moments. I
thought he won the first round. It was close second round, and then John Fitch turned it on in that third round.
That's a good point. So if you're talking about a guy who could do at least a little bit with John Fitch, not get completely overwhelmed. That's a pretty significant thing,
Speaking of submissions.
Yeah. Speaking of submissions.
Jesus, a night of submissions, right? Did it set a record? I believe so.
It set a record, yeah. Most submissions on a UFC fight card ever with 8. There was 8 submissions out of 12 fights.
And Eric Silva got submission of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's 75% of the fights ending in submission.
Wow.
And another thing, too, we've talked about this in the past because there was a couple Brazil cards a couple of weeks ago, right? And we at Deepwater MMA too, we're trying to compile what's called an upset index, or what we call an upset index. So we're looking at the different factors that lead to these upsets that we've seen, at least in the first half of the year.
Right.
But another thing that we're compiling is this the Brazilian home cage advantage is insane. It doesn't apply in any other countries.
No,
it's only Brazil.
They have what's equivalent to home field advantage.
Absolutely.
In baseball or football or whatever.
Yeah.
Every time they fight in Brazil.
Yep.
You can't really say that so much. Maybe when the guy's fighting in his hometown, I feel like maybe even for the Americans, they feel more pressure.
Yeah.
And with the Brazilians, I get the sense that it's not so much pressure, but motivation.
Yeah, it's like a cultural difference.
It is.
In how they handle
there is
that
a cultural
situation.
difference.
Yeah.
I think it hypes them up.
Yeah, they're ready to put on a show.
Yeah, some guys tend to freeze up.
Yeah,
you know? Mm-hmm. It's tough to fight in front of everybody you know. And a lot of these Brazilians, maybe they're not fighting in front of everybody you know. I believe the last one was in Fortaleza.
Yeah. Fortaleza.
There we go. Fortaleza, which there was only like 2 or 3 guys on the card from Fortaleza.
Yeah.
But still, I believe the Brazilian culture is so. If you're Brazilian and you're in Brazil, they will root for you.
Yeah, they get
It doesn't
behind
matter
it.
where
They
you're
get
from.
behind you.
Like in the United States, if you're from the South and maybe you're fighting up north, they're going, this
This
guy's from Kentucky, and they're fighting in
Screw that guy.
Connecticut or something. Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, another stat, and we mentioned this, I think 2 cards ago. Like the Brazilians were like 29-6 or something
Ridiculous.
in Brazil. They won every fight on this card. No one from another country came into Brazil and beat a Brazilian on this Fuel TV 10 card. It's incredible. So I mean, that was a factor for me picking some of these. Like if I didn't know the 2 fighters very well, because it was kind of an off the radar card. There wasn't a ton of known names on the card. But one of my major decisions every time was like, well, is he Brazilian?
Mm-hmm.
Is he fighting another Brazilian? Because that's kind of a wash. But if it's a Brazilian fighting someone from anywhere else, I'm leaning Brazilian like every time until this trend changes.
The stats will back you up on that.
It's an incredible trend, really.
Yeah, it really is. It's crazy. You have to look at things like that. When
Absolutely.
you're betting, you have to look at that. That's a major factor.
Yeah.
You have to look at the location of the fight.
Yep.
What the nationality of the guy is.
Yeah.
It's not just what kind of fighter he is anymore.
Yeah, how far are they traveling?
Are they going to Japan?
Yeah, are you traveling from California to Japan or something? Because the worst mistake you can make if you're betting serious money on this stuff is to just ignore that. You know what I mean? And just pretend like, a fight's a fight, or whatever. I mean, because we've seen that in every sport. It's almost scientifically proven that there is such a thing as a home field advantage in basketball and football and baseball. It's a weird sort of intangible, elusive thing. It's hard to define how it works exactly, but it's a real thing. And I think the sooner you just kind of accept that that's a real thing, and stop working against it or denying it or something, that you'll have more success winning money. It's wild stuff. I have to mention this. Our best bet, the DeepWaterMMA.com best bet. We started the website in February, so it's only a couple months old. We're new to the scene. We're begging people out there to pay attention to us.
Just listen.
Just listen to what we're saying. We will help you win money.
I'm telling you.
We are 9-1 now on our best bet since February. There's been 11 cards. We've had a best bet for 10 of them. We're 9-1 now. Some people might say we got lucky with a couple, but we're not going to apologize for good luck because we won. We won the money.
It takes a little luck to be whole lot of good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're going to need a little luck. And 9-1, if you're even putting just a little money down, you've made 9 times profit or 8 times profit.
Yeah.
You should have.
Yeah. If you're doing it the right way, you should be making money. Our last one was Ildemar Alcantara, right? And he won, I think, in the first round or something. Made it look easy.
Easy win.
So we didn't have to sweat that one out as much as we have some of the last couple. On that note, our best bet is not posted on the website just yet as of this recording, but it will be posted very soon. You should know it's not from the main card. It's an undercard fight. I'm not going to get into it too much here because I want you to visit the website. We need traffic. We need website visitors.
It's a good pick. Just go check it out.
It's a good pick, and I'll even tease it a little bit more. This person is an underdog, and the staff here at DeepWaterMMA.com, myself, Sam Maxwell, Kelly Miller, we've been emailing about this. We've been breaking it down. We've been turning cranks and running pulleys and everything.
And then the
steam
egg
powered
falls in the basket.
The egg falls in the basket, and then we pick a winner after that. So we've got a really good one lined up here for UFC 161. Will be worth your money.
Just check it out. It's free.
Check it out. It's free. We're not even asking you to give us money for this. Even though you could win money from it.
What's better than
We're
free?
not even asking you to give us any money for that.
What's better than free?
Yeah, and I would say this too. Take advantage of that situation while it lasts, because if our best bet keeps climbing to ridiculous proportions, or we get an incredible record going, this time next year, who knows, we might ask you to chip in a little bit, if you're going to be making money off of our wisdom and our insight and our knowledge. We might need to, pass us a couple bucks or something. We got to run a website here.
We are worth it.
We're worth it. Yeah, we're worth it. And if you listen to Kale, you could have gotten 4 of the 6 fights right.
Thank you.
I'll say it again. I said it, I think, on our last podcast. I hope you parlayed that shit.
Parlay that shit.
I don't over encourage parlaying fights, because you don't want to get caught up with like a weird one or something. But I think if you do it the right way, there's a way to do it.
There's money to be made.
That's 2 cards in a row where at least one of us
has called the
entire card, at least that we've discussed on the podcast.
Even actually what was going to happen in the fight, and then they happened.
Which is creepy, almost.
Kind of creepy.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder how you figure all this out.
Well, I have this crystal ball,
because
right?
you did call, at least, you called 2 of these fights, I think, exactly. Yeah. I think something about Verdum submitting Big Nog. I think you said if one guy was going to submit the other, Verdum would submit Big Nog, and that happened. Everything, it's
fell in line.
Spooky, Cal.
It
it's
fell
spooky.
in line.
Yeah.
When you're the connoisseur, you take it serious, okay?
Yeah, that's a well-earned nickname, right?
Thank you.
That's a well-earned nickname, the connoisseur, Cale Loveridge. So listen up. Should we is this a transition point? Should we transition? All right.
Segue
to UFC 161. This weekend, Saturday night, prelims on FX, main card on pay-per-view.
Nice.
It's been shuffled a little bit. There used to be a title fight on this card.
Yes.
Brennan Barrow was supposed to fight Eddie Wineland on this card, and Barrow got hurt.
Oh, man, poor Eddie Wineland, though.
Yeah, really.
I mean, you finally get your crack at...
After years.
Years. You know what he said? It was a pretty funny quote. He said it's like dangling a piece of cake in front of a fat kid and then pulling it away at the last minute, right?
Yeah.
Right
just
before
as
he bites
lips
it.
Touch the icing.
Yes, exactly.
You're like, and you can't have it.
But anyways, I'll take the replacement fight all day.
Yeah, not a bad. So all the replacement fight, everything else kind of shifts up a little bit. Headlined by Rashad Evans against Dan Henderson, and I'll tell you what, Cale, the connoisseur, I've been thinking long and hard about this fight, and I'm still a little torn. I don't know what's going to happen here. I'll get into it a little bit, but just before we hear from you, Rashad Evans, 17-3-1 all time, pretty good record.
Yep.
A slight favorite in this fight, last I checked, -130. Dan Henderson, even money at 29-9. He's 29-9 record. What are you thinking about this? This is a tough fight to call. I feel like they're very similar fighters in some ways.
You got a little fugazi odds here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. In my opinion, in my humble opinion,
yes,
I don't know why Rashad Evans is the favorite.
Interesting.
We're talking about Dan Henderson, a living legend here.
Hendo.
Okay, just because in his last fight he lost to Lyoto Machida, and he didn't really, I wouldn't say he got beat up. Right. He got outpointed by Lyoto.
Outpointed, which was, I think, a best bet of ours.
It was.
I think we called that one.
Yeah, he got outpointed by Machida. He didn't get beat up. If you looked at Dan Henderson after that fight, I don't even know if he had a scratch on his face.
He wasn't beat up.
No, he didn't get beat up, and he didn't gas too bad. He was
posing for pictures afterwards.
Yeah.
No makeup or anything.
Exactly. So they've got Rashad as the favorite, but personally, I think Dan Henderson should be the favorite in this fight, and for even money, that's a damn good return.
Yeah, it might be a good pick. Whatever you bet, you will win back.
This is what I think.
As of now,
when you're taking everything in, how is Rashad going to win the fight? He's going to have to be quicker.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have to hit some kind of takedowns, and he's going to have to catch him a few times. Not rock him, but just catch him good to where the crowd goes ooh or something.
Yeah.
It gives some kind of sway to the judges.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I don't think he can take Dan Henderson down.
I don't think so either.
He hasn't been using his wrestling in his fights like he used to. He used to use his wrestling a lot more.
Yeah, that's almost like the tough version of Rashad Evans used to take people down. Now he's sort of settled into
Black
this
Zillion phase of
which
striking.
is, the Black Zillions, for better or worse, I mean, they've had a pretty mixed bag of results so far.
I think it's a good camp. It's hard, man. It's hard when
might
you're fighting
be coming
top level guys.
It might finally be coming
together.
together.
Look at Vitor.
Yeah, Vitor's a Black Zillion. Thiago Silva's Black Zillion. I'm with you on that. This is going to be, for me, their grappling is kind of a wash,
Yeah.
I don't know if either guy will be able to take either guy down.
Well, I believe Dan Henderson holds a slight advantage.
In that?
Just in that, because Dan Henderson was, I believe, an Olympic alternate in this, for Greco-Roman wrestling. And Greco-Roman relates.
Right.
It's like judo. It relates to MMA.
Good point.
You throw people around in Greco-Roman. In college wrestling and in high school wrestling, it relates too, but that's a double leg takedown.
Yes.
That's a single leg takedown. That's a shot.
Yeah.
That's controlling someone on the ground. Dan Henderson controls people in the clinch and throws them down.
Good point.
I
was actually, as you started talking about that,
styles.
It's two different approaches to wrestling. Yeah, I mean, Rashad Evans has this sort of like GSP takedown style, like where he just surprises you with the takedown.
He's going to try to mix it up with striking and takedowns.
Henderson can grind you down like Randy Couture.
Exactly.
He can grab you, he can work you against the cage, he can clinch with you if he wants to.
You just get tired of him being on you.
And he gets different kinds of takedowns than a college high school wrestler gets. That's a really good point.
Trips, throws, things like that.
So maybe a slight advantage to Henderson in that he has more ways to get the fight to the ground than Rashad Evans does.
Yeah.
Because as we're talking, I can't really think about any time that I've seen Rashad Evans in a clinch situation for any long period of time. Unless his opponent initiated it, which is that's an interesting point.
Look at the Shogun fight with Dan. He was grabbing him behind the head and just giving him them uppercuts. He's dirty, man.
Fight of the year. Yeah.
He's dirty in the clinch, and that's how you're supposed to be.
Couple of stats here. Just to read through, to think about. Rashad Evans has lost 2 in a row. He lost to John Jones, which makes sense. And then he lost to Little Nog in his last fight, which did not make sense. The odds on that were huge. Like, he was a big favorite in that fight.
Not a great performance, man.
Yeah, just
I don't know what he was
doing.
It seemed like he was hesitant the whole time.
Yeah,
he never really let it. Yeah, he never really wanted to engage. He never let it go. That's what I was gonna say.
Almost like a bad point fighter, right? Like if you're fighting for points, you have to do something to earn the points.
Exactly.
And he was fighting for points, but not doing anything to earn them, and he lost. He lost a decision.
I don't even think he got any takedowns in that fight.
No, I don't even think he tried once.
And Big Nog's got good. He's a great fighter.
Little Nog, yeah.
He's a great. I'm thinking of the last card. Little Nog is a great fighter, but if you're Rashad Evans, you should be able to take, Little Nog down.
Yeah,
that's who you're supposed to be.
Yeah, that's when
part of your game.
That's the Rashad Evans that's in everyone's mind. I think
he got
the guy with the quick takedowns, the guy who pops you when you're throwing punches and takes you down.
Little Nog boxes with the Cuban national boxing team. That ain't no joke. The Cubans are some of the best in the world in boxing and wrestling.
Yeah,
they are, and baseball, but. We're not talking baseball, okay? We ain't talking baseball. We're talking, throwing punches here, not baseballs.
Right.
But so Little Nog has good stand-up, solid stand-up, and Rashad found that out. He got outboxed.
Yeah, he got outboxed. Yeah. It's an interesting thing here. I mean, Rashad Evans, 9 of his 17 total wins have come by decision, so he's he seems to be more of a decision fighter than anything else. 6 of them are by TKO or KO. So then you have a couple in there, like 1 or 2 submissions or something. Dan Henderson, across the cage, coming off a split decision loss to Lyoto Machida. Mm-hmm. He won 4 straight before that.
That was a horrible stylistic matchup for Dan Henderson.
Yeah, it didn't,
horrible.
Which I think is why it became our best bet, I think. Because we were thinking, how's Dan Henderson even going to hit Lyoto Machida clean enough to win the fight?
It was a bad matchup.
Or even grab him or anything.
Bad stylistic matchup.
Yeah.
And just Dan Henderson, I at that time, that wasn't a good fight for him, I don't think.
No.
Coming off injury and all that, and just...
Yeah. That's true. He didn't fight at all in 2012.
Yeah,
For a whole year, right? I have a question,
Then you have to fight Lyoto Machida. Yeah, I mean, that's hard.
Yeah, coming
Welcome
right back.
back.
Yeah, welcome back. Here's Lyoto Machida. I have a question for you, though. Dan Henderson is 42 years old. You know? Again, I mean, when you're deciding on who you think wins these fights, where are they from, how far are they traveling, and age. You know, age is a factor. I wrote about this a long time ago with Rampage Jackson, but there's a certain point where fighters decline fast. You know what I mean? You can see it with like Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture. I mean, all the usual people who have recently retired. Even Big Nog right now. You know what I mean? Like it's sort of fading out quickly. Dan Henderson's 42 years old. Is that a factor here? Should we consider his age?
I mean, it has to be a factor. I don't know if you...
Is he unique? Is he different from those other guys?
I was going to say, I don't know if you take it as much into consideration as you would with somebody else. Mm-hmm. Dan Henderson, I don't think he's ever been knocked out. I'm pretty sure of that.
I don't think so. No.
I mean, he's only been probably knocked down a couple times. I don't even really remember. Actually, when he fought Vanderlei the first time, he got knocked down a couple times with a good couple right and left hands. But,
back in Pride?
Yeah, back in Pride.
Okay.
And but if you look at his career, he doesn't get knocked out. He doesn't take a lot of punishment. I mean, the Shogun really fight was some of the most punishment I've ever seen him take.
It's an insane fight.
So 42 years old for him is probably a lot younger in his career, at least, or with his body, than a lot of guys.
That's a great point. I mean, Chuck Liddell, when he declined, his chin was gone. He was getting clipped and going down. But Dan Henderson's never even really had to deal with that.
No.
You know? So his age is a different kind of age, almost, you know? Less worn out. Less wear and tear.
On his chin, which is important.
Yeah.
And he's got a granite chin, man. All right, I'm going to get into my pick right now.
Okay.
That's a segue into my pick. This is part of my pick.
Okay.
Do you see Rashad Evans knocking out Dan Henderson?
If you're
personally, I don't.
If you're asking me, I don't either.
Personally, I don't. I could see Dan Henderson catching Rashad Evans.
Yeah.
Nothing against Rashad Evans. If anybody punches, if Dan Henderson punches anybody, they're going down.
Yeah.
If anybody gets punched by Dan, they're going down. I can see Dan Henderson clipping Rashad, maybe not knocking him out, but clipping him a few times in the fight.
Wobbling him a little bit.
More than
a little wobble going.
To where you're like, by the third round, you're like, wow, I can't believe Rashad's still there.
Yeah.
I can see Rashad gutting it out maybe.
Yeah.
And having a real gutsy performance. But unless he comes with a game plan, unless he game plans like Greg Jackson style, I just don't see him taking Dan Henderson down. I don't see him landing the more significant strikes because maybe Dan Henderson's not the best striker ever, but what he does, he sets it up well. And not well, he sets it up great.
Yeah.
Great. He throws a right hand like a missile.
Yeah.
And he knocked out Vanderlei with a left hook.
Yeah.
You know, and he hit him with a spinning back fist before that. You can't underestimate Dan Henderson.
No, and that's a lot of really good points. I mean, I'm wondering where Rashad's head is at because I think the John Jones fight stole his soul or something. I think he's questioning his whole career at this point. How much why am I bothering with this if I can't win the title? Because you're clear Rashad will not beat John Jones. That's clear. I think you're right though. I mean, I think when you're sort of picturing these fights unfolding in your head, you have to think about who's more likely to do what. We've already said Henderson seems to have more ways to get the fight to the ground if that's what he wants to do. We've also said he seems more likely in our minds to be able to land a solid punch. We talked about his chin, so even if Rashad Evans does hit him, he might not even notice. You know what I mean? He might just shake it off like a dog or something and just keep fighting. One of the things I've noticed too, and I don't know if this is partially due to age or what, but I feel like Dan Henderson has simplified his whole fight game to a point where you kind of can't take him down that easily. He's aware of that. He'll be prepared for that. And the way he kind of moves, and I've described it before as a sidestep shuffle or something. He kind of leads with his left shoulder.
He gives you less of a target to hit, too.
Yeah.
Remember, we talked about
less
that
of a target to hit, yeah. He makes himself narrow.
Yeah, when you move and you give angles and you present yourself in more of a narrow instead of straightforward chest towards you, more chest opposite of where, pointing the opposite 90 degrees of the person. it's less of a target to hit, and he's good
Right.
at that. He's really good at staying on that angle and waiting for that right hand.
Yeah, he's a savvy fighter. I mean, I think if he is getting older, you know, and that's affecting him, I feel like he hides it really well, you know, like you don't know, like he evolves his own game based on his own abilities at the age and time that he's at. And he really emphasized, I mean, we've already mentioned the right hand, but like, when he stands that way, when he stands with his left shoulder like facing the center of his opponent's chest and sort of shuffles at you and things like that, he's got a great base for avoiding takedowns. Yep. But at the same time, he's got an incredible setup already for slinging that right hand.
Yep.
You know what I mean? When I used to kick, I was a former football kicker, right? One of the things they used to say would, like when they talked about your hips and closing the door, because that's where you get like slamming a door closed.
Yeah.
Because that's where a lot of power comes from. And Dan Henderson's stance is like an open door that he wants to throw closed on you.
Slams it shut right to your mouth.
And he slams it into your face. You know what I mean? And Rashad Evans doesn't quite like different things. So, I mean, Dan Henderson, he's a savvy dude. He knows how to use his skills, even if they are aging. I'm talking this out, I think, is convincing me a little bit more. So, what's your pick? How do you see this ending?
I believe the fight will go two ways, and it's both on Dan Henderson's side. I'll preface it with that. I believe Dan Henderson will win. Dan Henderson's either going to catch Rashad Evans and knock him out, or catch him and finish him on the ground, or he's going to catch him a few times throughout the fight and win an easy, unanimous decision.
Yeah.
And Rashad won't look that great. He'll be a lot of the pawing. He'll be pawing.
Yeah.
And I think I see it going, you know...
I'm with you on that, I think.
Little Nog style. You know, kind of decisioned if not getting caught, because Rashad has a great chin, but...
Not that great.
No.
Not great enough to
He's been knocked out by Machida, and Machida's, you know... I mean, Machida's knocked out some people, but he's not known for having heavy hands.
No,
he's
not
known
like
for
Henderson.
being precise and knocking people out, but...
I'm with you on that. I think exactly what you just said is how I feel. I think sometimes... I think sometimes talking these things out a little bit helps me decide on... you know, how I feel about this stuff. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think Dan Henderson, it's a close fight anyway. You know, the bookies and the sports books and all that, it's a close fight. So, I mean, who knows? But
if I was handicapping this fight, I wouldn't give Rashad Evans money.
You'd just flip it, probably.
In my head, if you want to bet me and I'm a bookie, you're going to have to put money down on Dan Henderson.
Yeah.
Not Rashad Evans. I don't understand that whatsoever. But Rashad Evans is a younger fighter, you know, he's supposed to be.
He's probably a little quicker. You know, I think he is quicker, but I don't know if that's going to matter.
He was faster than Little Nog.
Yeah,
for sure.
Totally.
He's got the speed advantage.
Yeah.
That didn't help one bit.
Yeah. No, you're totally right.
He didn't hit him. You got to hit the person.
Yeah.
You got to be not scared to hit him.
Yeah, and you can't use your quickness just to avoid being hit, because you won't win a fight backing up and avoiding things. You have to actually do stuff to win fights. So
Rashad better come with a game plan.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I mean, does he... I didn't... side conversation here. Rashad Evans has talked about dropping to 185 before. If he loses this fight, he kind of has to, right?
It's kind of
Where's he going to go?
What do you do in the light heavyweight division?
Yeah.
Do you fight, a guy who's up and coming now, because you just lost 3 in a row?
Yeah.
So
they won't. I don't think he'll be cut. I don't think he's at risk of being.
No,
cut.
He's
lost to the cream of the crop.
He's got a name, and he's an Ultimate Fighter winner.
Yeah.
It's hard to cut them, especially the early Ultimate Fighter winners.
Right. All right. Well, we're both going Dan Henderson there.
Dan
Henderson. I like it. I feel like I talked it out, and I feel comfortable with it now.
Good.
I wasn't sure where I was at here.
That's a good bet, too. Even money.
Solid bet. Yeah, even money. That could even shift, I think, because most of the places I've looked, the Sure Dogs and the Bloody Elbows and all those fancy places with their full-blown websites and all that crap. I think they're mostly going with all their advertising on their website.
Sponsors. None of that to look at. No bullshit to look at on our website.
Yeah, we're just straight
MMA
info.
Straight info.
Yeah,
no bullshit.
That's right.
All filler, no BS. Wait.
All filler. Yeah. So most of those places that I've checked out are going with Rashad Evans, and I have to say I don't know that their reasons are sound. They're like, oh, he'll be quicker, and it's sort of like a vague, like, oh yeah, because he's younger maybe or something.
He was younger than Little Nog.
I don't know,
and he was quicker than Little Nog.
Yeah,
and Little Nog doesn't punch like Dan Henderson does.
I mean, if we're bringing our critical thinking skills to the table, and you're reading Sure Dog or Bloody Elbow's breakdown of this fight,
hey man, everyone.
I don't know that I don't know that their reasons for picking Rashad Evans are
that strong.
necessarily that great. You know what I mean? So don't be too scared here with the Henderson. It's a close fight, so don't go crazy. But Dan Henderson, I'm with you on that. Dan Henderson,
I wouldn't mind
either a decision or like a late TKO, maybe.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Another way I like to think about things is I don't mind losing a little money on Dan Henderson. Okay.
Yeah, it's like
I mean, you're not betting on some guy who's first fighting the UFC here, and we picked him, and we're telling put your marbles on him.
Right.
This is Dan fucking Henderson.
Yeah, these guys are known commodities. They've been fighting. We've all seen them fight before, so there's a lot of it's almost like there's a lot of film to study. You know what I mean? Like and a lot of things to process. But all right, let's move on down the card from one right hand destroyer to another
to the next, huh?
To the next, Roy Nelson versus Stipe Miocic.
Miocic?
How do you say it?
Miocic. I say Chich. I don't know if that's right.
Miocic.
Miocic.
He's Croatian apparently, or he was born there or something. He identifies strongly with
Marko Filipovic. So maybe we'll say Miocic.
I'll go with Miocic. Whatever. We'll listen to Joe Rogan and Mike Goldberg.
Let's just say Stipe.
Yeah, let's go with Stipe. So Roy Nelson's this fight. Neither one of these guys were fighting on this fight card, right? Until a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, they just set this up out of the blue. It seemed like
they lost the title fight, and they were like,
needed a co-headliner.
We need like a cool fight now because after this it gets a little unknownish. A little
like
less.
Who?
A little maybe people don't know, but yeah, Roy, big country Nelson. Is the slight favorite in this one, minus 250. So maybe more than a slight favorite. Minus 250 versus Stipe Miocic at plus 195. Short notice fight for both guys. So I think we can eliminate that as a factor because both guys have to deal with that. Roy Nelson's won 3 fights in a row over Czech Congo, Matt Mitrione, and Dave Herman. And he last lost to Fabricio Verdum. Which was actually at this point like 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And that was a great fight.
Yeah, great fight. He hung around.
He thought he won. Remember when we watched? Did I tell you about that? I'm sorry.
I
watched.
That's okay. Yeah, go ahead. Tell us.
I watched the Dana
Tell the
White.
people.
Everyone needs to watch this. They're super cool. And I don't care. It's Dana White. Dana White's vlogs, his video vlogs. Yeah, they're great. They show behind the scenes stuff. It's great. At the end of the Roy Nelson, I don't know the number, UFC whatever. Yeah, it was Roy Nelson, Fabricio Verdum. That fight was on the card. I don't believe that was the headliner, but that was on the card. Yeah. So just look that up, his vlog where that's on the card, and you'll find Roy Nelson in the back saying, "How did the judges see it Fabricio's way? I was pressuring. I thought I won the fight." Yeah. And Lorenzo Fertitta's face is priceless. He looks at Roy Nelson like, you must be fucking out of your mind.
Really?
It's so great. Yeah. I'll have to show you. One day we'll watch it together just to show you his face is priceless, man.
That's awesome.
Because Roy's complaining to Dana, and there's a bunch of people
that he won the fight.
Because I believe Nick Diaz was on that card. That's the Carlos Condit Nick Diaz card, I believe. And Nick Diaz was saying how he won. And Dana was kind of agreeing with him a little about. And then Roy came up was like, yeah, what's up with the judges? And then Lorenzo looks at him like, really? Like, really? Yeah. You have... At the time, he has like this huge stitch going across his forehead because if you remember, he got cut really bad in that fight by a knee. And he has like 12 stitches going across his forehead, and you're just like, dude, there's no way you won that fight.
Yeah. Good fight.
He thought he won the fight. Yeah. That's how tough he is.
Yeah. No.
Well, I came forward the whole time, but when you were coming forward, you got punched in the face. Yeah. And kneed in the face.
Yeah. I think that's I mean, I don't know. Maybe judges rely on that or something, but we've seen some fights where a guy's just coming forward kind of like relentlessly, and you don't, and a lot of people think that that means that you're winning. You know what I mean? But there's a whole like counter punching style. Yeah, I mean, you have to like look at just because you're trudging forward and getting punched doesn't mean you're winning. You know what I mean? It's kind of smart to back up. Like if you're the other guy, why wouldn't you back up and hit him? So yeah, he's won 3 in a row. Lost to Verdum in his last loss, but that, like we said, was a while ago. 12 of his 19 wins are by KO and TKO. 5 are by submission, which I feel like is a part of Roy Nelson's game
People forget
that we haven't seen
he's a
for a
black
while.
belt in
He's
jiu-jitsu.
a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Isn't that weird?
With an incredible center of gravity.
To think that Roy Nelson is a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, you wouldn't think it.
No
right?
way. You take one look at him, you don't think he has a great ground game. But
Yeah.
if you remember when he was on The Ultimate Fighter, he beat the shit out of Kimbo because he got him on the ground.
Most guys.
And most guys, he got him on the ground.
Got him on the ground,
He won
beat him
his
up.
fight.
Yeah, he cruised through tough, right?
Yeah.
He did not have a tough time, to make a pun, he did not have a tough time on tough, kind of going through that competition, yeah. So across the cage, Stipe Miocic, he's 6'4", so he might have a reach advantage here. I don't know if that'll factor in.
Yeah.
He's 30 years old, so he's not a young guy, even though he's a prospect. He's not young.
Roy Nelson's barely 6 foot, I think, or probably just
Yeah,
6
he's a little
foot.
shorter, so he might have to deal with that reach disadvantage.
And
but
it didn't hurt him against Congo. I think Congo's
Yeah.
6'4".
Yeah, that's a good point. Miocic coming off a loss to Stefan Struve in September of 2012.
Which a card he headlined with Struve.
Yes.
He was the headline fight against Stefan Struve. I believe so.
Oh, Miocic?
Yeah.
Yeah. They headlined that card.
Fuel TV
Fuel
card.
TV card.
Yeah.
He won his first 3 UFC fights before he lost to Stefan Struve against
But he
Joey Beltran,
when he was a heavyweight.
who is a professional
Punching bag?
punching bag.
Yes.
Yeah, he doesn't win a lot, but
He's got a hell of a
he's
chin.
incredible to watch take a beating. Phil DeFries, who is not that big of a deal. I don't even know if he's in the UFC anymore.
He literally
And then
has nothing against
Shane Del Rosario.
Nothing against Phil DeFries, but he literally has no chin.
No chin.
He's been knocked out twice.
He's a
very
pure
fast,
ground guy.
Very fast in the UFC.
And he has a hard time even getting fights to
And
the
Shane
ground.
Del Rosario is a tough dude.
Yeah.
But he tends to lose fights in the UFC.
Yeah.
I believe he lost to Roy Nelson. No, I'm sorry. He lost to Pat Barry.
Yeah,
Del
that's
Rosario
right.
in his last fight.
We'll get to Pat Barry later.
That's
but
later.
How do you, what are you leaning on this one?
I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to sit here and analyze this fight and
Yeah.
tell you every single reason.
Yeah.
But this is what Roy Nelson will not lose to Stipe Miocic. I just feel that.
Yeah.
I feel like he's going to catch him.
We should mention, too, this is Roy Nelson's last fight on his UFC contract, which
And
don't underestimate that as a motivating factor. He's like a running back in the NFL whose contract is up the next year
He's
and
ready.
can make a lot of money if he
He's
has a
ready.
good season. So, on the same note, if Roy Nelson comes in and just blows Miocic out of the water, he's setting himself up for either a pretty hefty payday going forward if he renews his contract with the UFC,
or a decent contract somewhere outside of the UFC, which there's not a lot of places
I don't
with
know
a
what that would
heavyweight
be.
division.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Bellator.
Maybe. I
They
don't know
don't have a
about
good
that, though.
heavyweight.
No one really has.
Stay in the UFC.
Stay in the
please,
UFC,
Roy
Roy Nelson.
Please. We
Yeah,
want
we
to
wanna
watch
see
you
you-
fight
Yeah.
top level guys in the
Yeah.
UFC. People like Stipe Miocic, who's 9-1.
Yeah, he's no joke.
He's a great wrestler.
Yep. I want to see Roy Nelson fight
Look,
Mark
I
Hunt. I want to see him fight.
One more. Roy Nelson eventually will catch Stipe. Roy Nelson has a great ground game. Stipe's thing is he takes you down and he grinds on you.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to work with Roy Nelson.
No.
Roy Nelson's eventually going to punch him and maybe not knock him out TKO.
Yeah, I'm
Round
with you.
2
Okay.
TKO.
I'm going to go Roy Nelson. Yeah, round 2 KO.
Nice.
Straight KO.
Straight knockout.
Just Czech Congo style.
Okay,
Just
if you
on
can
your
knock
face.
out Czech Congo, I'm pretty sure you might be able to knock out Stipe Miocic.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing against anybody.
Right.
Congo, I think, is on a different striking level than Miocic. You
Yeah,
know?
I think it's weird. Like in my own head too. Like I was a Crow Cop fan. I liked Mirko Crow Cop. Miocic wears the Crow Cop shorts. He's got the cool name, and you think, oh, this is the next dude. He's going to be the next Mirko Crow Cop. But don't get confused. He does not fight like Mirko Crow Cop. He can't throw head kicks like that. He's a whole different dude. He's only had 10 pro fights. You know what I mean? So yeah, he's a prospect, and he might be hyped up, and people have a lot of expectations for him and stuff. But he's moving up a level here to fight Roy Nelson.
Don't forget this too.
Yeah.
If Roy Nelson beats Stipe Miocic,
Yeah.
he has 20 professional wins.
Mhm.
That's almost double the fights that Miocic has.
Yeah.
Roy Nelson almost has as many losses as Stipe has.
His
As
total
Stipe
fights.
has total fights.
Yeah.
That's a factor.
Yeah, don't just the experience factor. It's always a factor.
Roy Nelson has fought a lot of big names.
And he's fought in the IFL. He was the champion, I think, in the IFL briefly or something. He fought Andrei Arlovsky in Elite XC and lost. That was back when Arlovsky actually still had some skills remaining. And he's fought Roy Nelson's fought a lot of dudes. He's fought Junior Dos Santos and survived it. I mean, it goes back to what we said about Rashad Evans and Dan Henderson. I don't see Miocic being able to knock out Roy Nelson or win a decision. You know what I mean? Like, what's he going to do? Hold him down?
No.
Because Roy Nelson's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and Miocic isn't, you know? And so when you start putting these things together, that seems like a great line to me. If it's minus 250, you know, the more we keep talking about this.
That's not bad.
Barring, like, the miracle stuff, you know, the random punches, which could always happen in any fight, Roy Nelson seems like a pretty good...
That's a damn good bet, I'd say.
Pretty good bet, yeah, you know, for Roy Nelson. So
pretty solid.
I'm taking Roy Nelson, second round KO.
Nice.
Straight KO.
We're both calling the second round.
Yeah, second round. So these are heavyweights, you know. It won't last too long, maybe.
Never does.
If it's not a knockout by Roy Nelson, I think he wins a decision.
Just beats him up.
Just beats him up a little bit.
Stops
Maybe
takedowns.
wobbles him a little bit, you know, with that right hand, makes him think twice. So, all right, let's keep moving down the card here. I'm excited about this fight, not for the reasons you'd think, though. Ryan Jimmo, 17-2.
Yeah.
Versus Igor Pakryak. We're going to try and say his name properly. Pakryak. Pakryak, something like that. So Ryan Jimmo's the favorite, minus 250. Pakryak, plus 195. Ryan, I'm excited for this. By the way, have you looked at Ryan Jimmo? Do you know what this dude looks like?
Yeah, he looks like a freaking G.I. Joe or something.
That's what I was going to say. G.I. Joe. Yeah, like without the body armor or something. Shaved head. I don't even know if he has eyebrows. He's just like a straight, like, creative fighter from the beginning.
The robot Jimmo. I don't know if that's his nickname.
It should be.
He looks like a robot, and he does the
like
robot dance. Remember?
Does he?
When he wins.
I don't remember that. Really?
He does the pop lock thing.
That's even cooler.
I just want to see him win to see the dance. Is that weird? Is that too much fanboy?
No, if that's what you're into, then that's fine. You know?
I want to see him do the dance.
If that's what you're down with, then that's fine. I mean, his last fight, he lost a very controversial decision to James Tahuna, who we just saw lose to Glover Teixeira by submission. Right? And that loss, which was controversial, I have to emphasize that,
kicked him right
ended a 17-fight win streak for Ryan Jimmo. This dude's a prospect. This dude's a real deal. He's under the radar. People aren't maybe totally clued in on him or for whatever reason. 7 of his wins are by a KO. 8 are by decision, so he can last. You know, he's got like a cardio. He's 1-1 in the UFC so far. I was doing a little research. I put the research team on it, and they sent me this info. Right, here's some names.
I didn't know these names.
That Ryan Jimmo has beaten in his previous UFC career. He beat Sokaju. He beat Anthony Perosh, the hippo. Right? Yeah. He beat Wilson Gouveia.
Yep.
Who's a good jiu-jitsu ground guy. Right, survived that. I think.
Tough, man.
He beat Emmanuel Newton, who just won the Bellator light heavyweight tournament.
Who just knocked out King Mo.
And he beat kind of journeyman Marvin Eastman.
He was a tough dude, man.
Tough guy.
You can't count out Marvin Eastman. He's had a lot of losses in his career, but he had some pretty big wins.
But he's always kind of in the, you know, like he's a guy you can call in or whatever.
He's a good athlete.
Good athlete, yeah. So he's, and Jimmo is a black Zillion, apparently. I didn't know that.
Which makes no sense.
Yeah, which is weird.
He's not black or Brazilian.
Or Brazilian.
What is he
doesn't fit really any criteria.
He's Canadian.
Yeah, he's Canadian, which this card,
it
from
should be
the
called
peg.
The Black Zillion Canucks.
That should be a branch, sort of the whole Black Zillion, you know?
You could have one in Canada.
Yeah, the Black Zillions Canada edition, which is just a weird... It should be the Canada Zillions or something. But he's Canadian, so he is fighting in his home country, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Canada doesn't have the Brazil factor like Brazil does.
Unless you're George St. Pierre. Unless
you're GSP, right? So it's not quite to the same level as like the Brazilian thing, but he's not traveling very far, you know? He's traveling... across Canada, you know, for his fight.
No matter what, it's a couple hours.
Pakryak, right? Fighting from Croatia. So one dude's driving 2 hours, the other guy's flying 15 hours.
Croatia.
You know what I mean? From Croatia. So if you're looking at these fights...
He probably doesn't speak great English either.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, I've never actually heard him talk.
But there's nothing against... What I'm saying is it's hard to communicate. It's hard to get the right food. It's hard. Yeah. Everything is a little bit more difficult when you can't speak the language. Yep. I'm sure he has people with him, but you know, you want to be the one in charge.
Yeah, and if you're about to fight a dude
Exactly.
in a cage with no one else around. You don't want your whole week to be bogged down in like missed, things you're trying to order at a restaurant that don't come out because you don't understand the words and stuff. Like that's
Exactly.
That's a minor factor, but it's a factor.
It's a lifestyle
like you can't,
factor.
Yeah. So Pak Ryak, sorry, plus 195. He's 3-1-1 in his last 5 fights, which is pretty good. It's a pretty good record. He's coming off a no contest. It was overturned to Joey Beltran, who we just mentioned. Who is a professional punching bag.
I don't remember that fight.
I don't
usually am really good about that. And I don't remember Beltran fighting
a glitch
Ryak,
in the connoisseur system.
It must be. I couldn't remember it. I couldn't remember the fight.
He lost to Vinny Magalhaes before that.
But Vinny Magalhaes is a world jiu-jitsu champion.
Right.
So I believe he lost the submission, or he just got grinded out that fight, which isn't that bad.
Yeah. He's got a variety of ways that he's won in the past. 13 wins by TKO or KO, 8 by sub, 4
He's all
decisions.
over the place.
He's all over. So if he wins, he can win in any fashion, it seems like. But
he's a big, strong, built, tough guy. I've seen Igor fight a few times.
Yeah.
This is my thing. I think Ryan Jimmo's more athletic. I think he's got more skills, and I think that he's hungry after his loss to Tehuna when in the first round
he's pissed.
He almost knocked Tehuna out with a head kick.
Yeah.
And had him wobbled, but the next 2 rounds he tired and he got...
Yeah.
Hopefully he comes in a little bit better shape this time. He did really get... If you watch that last fight, he got tired.
Yeah.
Very tired.
Which is why he lost.
Yeah, he's a very muscly guy.
Yeah.
And when you have that much muscle, it takes more blood to get to your muscles.
Yeah.
And your heart pumps harder, your lungs have to work harder, it makes you more tired.
How do you see this one going?
I actually would, I personally think Jimmo's going to stop the fight.
Yeah.
I think he's going to show up strong. First round stoppage, and might send Igor packing.
Yeah. Hey, nice. Nice pun.
He might send Igor packing.
I'm with you on that. I think this is one of my favorite bets on the main card. I don't see how Jimmo can lose this fight, really. He shouldn't. I mean, Pak Ryak has fought a lot of fights. I don't know if he's fought the same quality of competition. He's got these no contests to Beltran and, like a loss to Magalhaes. I think Jimmo, with his history, with his build, with his record, he's 17-2. I think he's the real deal. I think he's a serious prospect, and I think if he wins this fight, maybe one more fight, we start talking titles for Ryan Jimmo, because he's just a scary, dangerous, violent kind of guy. And he's fought dudes. He's fought dudes with ground games before, So I mean, he can eliminate that factor almost.
He's gonna have to fight a name. He hasn't really.
Yeah, he needs to fight a name. That's true.
At least a UFC name. I mean, he beat Sakaju, he beat Anthony Perosh, Wilson Gavea. I know all them guys. Emmanuel Newton. Mm-hmm. We all know who they are, but the general populace and public has no idea who most of those people are. He needs to fight somebody with a name. He needs to fight Shogun. And it sounds crazy. He needs to fight. He needs to fight somebody with a name.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think I think.
And I don't know if he's ready for that. I think he needs a couple of Igors. He needs a couple fights he can win.
Just to ease into the UFC. Yep. You talked about that last time too. The UFC.
It's
factor.
a big deal, man.
Yeah, I just think when you look at Pak Ryak and then you look at the other wins he's already got, I don't think Pak Ryak is any kind of step up. I think he might be a sidestep or even like a half a step down from some of the guys he's fought at this point like years ago. You know what I mean? So I see Jimmo. First round KO.
Yep.
I think he blasts him.
I think TKO, KO, something.
Yeah.
Catches him with a high kick.
Something.
Some kind of spinning back thing. Something crazy.
Yeah, something. So
we're both athletic.
So we're on the same page through 3 fights here.
Nice.
We've got Henderson, Nelson, and Jimmo after 3. The next one down here, another women's fight, which I'm actually looking forward to. They've put on some incredible fights.
In the UFC.
Particularly grappling,
Yeah, good.
I don't know if it's like a biological women-men thing or something, but these women seem to they're not killers on the feet, but they're incredibly skilled on the ground.
They're not scared to mix it up.
Yeah,
that's what I get. They're not scared to stand up. They're not scared to go to the ground. They're not scared to punch each other until they fall down. They're just not scared to actually. We saw it
the Misha Tate Kat Zingano
fight. It was a hell of a fight,
freaking awesome fight. Incredible fight. So we have Alexis Davis, who is Canadian, at minus 400. She's a pretty big favorite here. Over the Englander, is that the right term? Englander? Over Rosie Sexton, who's 13-2. So no joke on Rosie Sexton. She's only lost twice. Britlandia?
I don't know. I think
Britlandier?
I made that up.
Maybe. I like it.
Britlandier.
I like that term. Yeah, Rosie Sexton, a big underdog here, plus 300. I'm not sure about these odds. I mean, I don't know a ton about Rosie Sexton or Alexis Davis, but the research team came up with some interesting things.
I can tell you, Alexis Davis is more kind of like a ground fighter.
Yeah.
More than stand up. So what she'll probably do is, and in England, most English fighters don't have great ground games. It just kind of goes with the territory.
Yeah, the culture is...
Not to say that. I mean, there's always
culture.
exception to the rules. There's the stand-up culture. It's not a lot of wrestling. There's no amateur wrestling whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Alexis Davis trains with Cesar Gracie, fight team.
Doesn't that mean that she's automatically, like, Stockton tough?
Yeah, that, and she's well-rounded.
Yeah.
She can do it all, and
Yeah.
I just see her having more skill than Rosie right now.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Rosie Sexton, by the way, because the only division in the UFC right now is bantamweight, right? Which
Yeah.
is 135.
Yeah.
Rosie Sexton is a flyweight. That's what I read that. She's moving up a weight class.
125?
basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's moving up a weight class
To fight a bigger girl.
to fight somebody who's probably cutting weight. So there's just a size disadvantage there, which might explain the odds because their records are pretty good. Rosie Sexton's only 13-2. She's only ever lost twice. You know what I mean?
Great record.
So she's not going to be a pushover, but I think the size difference might make the difference in this one. Alexis Davis is 4-1 in her last 5. She's only lost to Sarah Kaufman by a majority decision. So you know that was like a super close fight. She's 28 years old too, and she's fought in Strikeforce and Invicta, which Invicta is all female fighting, which is top notch stuff over there.
If you actually have never watched Invicta, go check that out, man. They got some great fights.
If you haven't watched Invicta, what are you doing?
Well, you just might not know about it,
Yeah.
and you might think the chick fights are lame, but they're not. They're not. They're great fights.
No, they're awesome. So Rosie Sexton, I listened to an interview with her on a rival podcast. I don't want to say who because I don't want anyone to listen to it. They should be listening to us only. But she's confident, but she's like a mom. You know, this almost seems like something she just does for fun or something. Yeah, she's 35 years old, Rosie Sexton. Alexis Davis is 28. You know, so we keep bringing up the age factor here.
I believe she's hungrier.
Hungrier, probably realizes maybe a bigger opportunity for herself. I see a lot of things working in Alexis Davis's favor here, especially considering she's favored. So it seems appropriate to me that she's favored as much as she is. Although I don't think it'll be a super easy fight. I think she'll win. I think Alexis Davis takes maybe a decision or a late finish. That's what I'm thinking. Because Rosie Sexton's obviously tough.
I'm thinking Alexis Davis is going to grind Rosie Sexton down.
Yeah.
It's going to be an easy, unanimous decision kind of thing.
Yeah. So we're both on the Alexis Davis train. Does she have a train? Are we on that train?
Ooh,
bandwagon?
That sounds bad. Let's say bandwagon.
Carriage?
I don't know if we should say we're riding her train.
Yeah, we're not riding her train. We are supporting her in our pick.
In a very humble and gracious manner.
Yes, exactly. Yes, right. The final fight on the main card.
Which we may disagree on, sir.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
All right, well,
I'm
let's...
springing this on you at the last second.
Good, because I told you kind of how I'm leaning already. So.
We slightly talk a little bit before the podcast. We don't want to talk
about
too
this
much,
one,
but we talk a little bit, and I think I'm leaning the other way.
All right, well, let's
go ahead.
Let's see. I'll set it up here. Pat Barry, the Pat HD Barry, 8-5.
Horrible nickname. I'm sorry.
I kind of like it. We're gonna disagree a lot, maybe.
That's okay.
I like his nickname, and you don't.
Horrible nickname.
Pat HD Barry. High def, dude. He's high def. I don't know if that's a good quality in a fighter or something.
It's not.
I don't know what that is, but he's 8-5. He is a super slight favorite. I think this fight, according to the bookies, is as close as the Evans-Henderson fight. I'm not sure exactly about the math. It's super close. So Pat Barry, minus 125. Versus Sean the Savage.
Ooh.
Savage. Jordan. Who's 14-4. And a minus 105. So 2 minuses. Which means who the hell knows what's going to happen here.
You're winning money.
I think the bookies are telling everybody, like, I don't know what's going to happen here.
Well,
so they're going to make it super close.
You're getting money no matter who you bet on.
Yeah. Pat Barry, This is. I'll tell you what. I'm going with. I'll start with my pick, and then I will explain my pick.
Thank you.
Let's do it that way.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going with Sean Jordan.
And
in this fight, because I think he's a little younger. He's fighting out of Jackson's MMA, and we know those dudes always show up with solid game plans. Like he's not gonna F it up with a weird game plan. He's just as dangerous standing, not necessarily in a technical sense, but in the sense that he can end the fight standing. I think he's just as dangerous as Pat Barry. 10 of his 14 fights have come by wins have come by KO, TKO. He's 3-2 in his last 5. I think that could make people stop for a minute. But they were 2 decision losses, and I don't remember really watching any Pat Barry fights that end in decision. So
no,
I'm thinking if Sean Jordan can make the fight drag on into the 3rd round or something, that it starts to favor him. And I don't necessarily know that he's in any real danger standing. And this is my final point, and then I'll let you defend yourself.
Thank you.
Pat Barry only has 4 wins since 2009,
Yeah.
I think he gets involved in these incredible fights, like the Czech Congo Pat Barry fight.
Awesome.
Was effing insane. I was, like, people were sleeping when I was watching it, and I just went jumping off of the couch. Like, it was a crazy finish.
Top 5 WTF moments, man. Ever.
Yeah, and the last thing is Pat Barry, to me, I know he's been working on his ground game and all that kind of stuff, but he's a pure striker at heart. And when the going gets tough, or the rubber meets the road, or whatever kind of cliche you want to use, I think he falls back. I think he falls back on his striking. And I think Sean Jordan is younger, is coming out of a better fight camp, and has more ways to win. And I think he's also probably bigger and stronger than Pat Barry. So
nice.
You have a challenge there. So explain your pick. Defend yourself.
Well, here's my pick. Here's why.
Tell the people.
Sean Jordan's a beast. He's a big guy, and he does have submissions in his game.
Yeah.
This is what I'm thinking, though. For some reason, I see Pat Barry catching him. He lost a unanimous decision to Czech Congo, and I don't think many, if anybody, loses unanimous decisions to Czech Congo. In a very boring fight.
Super boring fight.
Very boring. What I think Sean Jordan's going to be, I don't want to say, he's going to be imposing a little bit on Pat Barry at first. I believe Pat Barry will catch him. His stand-up, Pat Barry, people don't give Pat Barry enough credit with his stand-up.
Yeah.
He's got
You think so?
killer leg kicks.
That's true.
If he's smart, he will use his leg kicks in this fight to set up his right or left hand.
Like all round one, just throwing leg kicks.
If he's smart, he will go back to old Pat Barry and start throwing. If you remember, I believe in his UFC debut, he made a guy quit off of leg kicks.
Chopped him down.
I love
that,
He needs to chop Sean Jordan down and catch him with a right hand. I'm going to go ahead and this is more of a, I can sit here and point out reasons why Sean Jordan will win.
Yeah.
It's more of a feeling pick. I
just
have a gut pick. I think Pat Barry is going to catch him. That's it. I don't have all these things to back that up.
Yeah.
I think he's a better striker.
I think he's definitely a better striker. I would agree with that.
And I think if Sean Jordan doesn't get Pat Barry to the ground, which he might do that.
Yeah.
Pat Barry will catch him eventually and knock him TKO or KO.
Okay. Fair enough.
We have to disagree on one fight, right?
At least, I think it's good for the people to hear 2 sides of a story.
Yes.
I'm still going with Sean Jordan. I'm going Sean Jordan, 2nd round TKO.
Ooh.
2nd round. I think
Pat Barry's going to finish him in the 1st round, man.
What?
Yep.
Bold.
Yes.
Bold.
He's going to light him up with some leg kicks, and the right hand's
I like it, though.
A right hand's going to come from nowhere and catch this guy on the chin, man.
I like the boldness. Yeah. It should be a great fight. It's a great fight. We talked about this actually before the podcast, like the design of fight cards. There's always a couple fights that mean something.
What?
Then there's always a couple fights that are just kind of fun for the people, And I think this
I don't
Pat
mean...
Barry Sean Jordan fight is going to be fun for the people to start the pay-per-view.
No, you're right. I don't mean to digress, but I do.
We can digress. Let's do this. We're going to
You're
shift
telling
to
me
the
right now
undercard.
Jake Shields and Tyrone Woodley are on the undercard of this.
Yeah.
So you're telling me,
Yes.
or the UFC is
Yep.
presenting this to me.
Yes.
Pat Barry, Sean Jordan is
Yeah.
going to be a better fight than Jake Shields, Tyrone Woodley.
That's-
Hold on. I'm not done. Ryan Jimmo, Igor Pukrajevic is going to be a better fight than Jake. Jake Shields is a
Curse.
former.
Go ahead.
Jake fucking Shields is a former champion
Yeah.
in Strikeforce and I believe Elite XC.
Yeah.
And
I think you're
Tyrone Woodley is a badass who's coming off like a
Super
30
badass.
or 40 second knockout
Yeah,
of Jay
36
Haran.
seconds. Yep.
Okay? How the
Couple months
hell
ago.
are you not on the main card? Am I as confused as you are?
It's
or
confusing.
Am I going crazy?
No, you're right. Your
Why do
confusion is warranted.
Why do they not deserve, as human beings, professional fighters,
Right, who are doing this for a life.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Human beings who are professional fighters
Yeah.
who have names. To have Alexis Davis, nothing against Rosie
just
Sexton
gonna say
or
that.
Alexis Davis, ahead of them on the card.
Yeah.
A former champion, world champion.
Yeah. I have to. Here's. Let me play devil's advocate. I understand everything you just said.
Please do.
I don't necessarily
I'd love
disagree.
to.
But I'll put myself in the mind of like whoever comes up with this shit. First of all, the FX card is free on TV. Everybody can watch that. You know what I mean? And I think what they try to do with the FX cards, for better or worse, bad or good, whatever, is that they try to end the FX portion of the undercard
Something good.
with something awesome,
Yes.
something exciting, because then you get all the people, on their phones and on the internet and on their Xboxes
You
and
should
whatnot.
have seen this fight.
Just ordering the rest of the pay-per-view. I think they try to get people hooked with the FX cards. Or the FX fights, I mean.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
So, there's a little bonus. I think we're going into bonus territory here. We don't do this often, but I have some stuff written down here in front of us. Jake Shields, Tyrone Woodley. Should be a great fight, by the way. I'm looking forward to this. This could almost be like a co-main event fight.
I'm thinking that it should be Rashad Evans, Dan Henderson, Roy Nelson, Stipe Miocic, Jake Shields, Tyrone Woodley.
Yeah.
That should be Ryan Jimmo, Igor Pukrajevic.
Yeah.
I don't get that. But
Well,
anyways.
let's break it down.
But
let's give the people some overtime.
You just gave me a great point, though. UFC is a business,
Yeah.
okay?
Don't forget that.
Do not forget that. UFC is a business. That's a great point. What they're trying to do is attract you with a free undercard.
Yep.
And you're going, well, man, Jake Shields, Tyrone was great.
The rest of
wanna
the
see
card's
the rest
gonna be
of it, yeah.
crazy.
I can see that's gotta be the only reason they're on the undercard.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah.
They had to give you one great fight on the undercard, and they said, here you go, guys.
Yep.
This is it.
It's like the undercard headliner.
It is.
If you want to be
It's
positive about it.
like a minor headliner to the
Yeah.
major event.
So Jake Shields, we can do this one too. He's 34, by the way. I wrote down 34 years old, and then I went ...
Yeah.
Because I feel like that means something. Tyrone Woodley's 31. It's not like a huge difference, but I feel like Jake Shields has met his level. I feel like he, at least in the UFC perspective, context or whatever, I feel like he's peaked. He's a slight underdog, by the way, last time I checked. Plus 150 on Jake Shields, minus 185 for Tyrone Woodley, who's coming off that 36-second loss, or 36-second win over Jay Huron in February, a couple months ago.
Too.
And that was his UFC debut.
Brutal KO.
I think Tyrone Woodley wins this fight.
Yeah, I think
I think he wrestles him and beats him up.
Yeah,
and avoids a submission.
Yes. I think he's got more skills, and he's going to be...
It's a little more violent standing. We saw that. Jake Shields throws a punch about as fast as a turtle crosses a street.
Jake Shields doesn't seem...
Did you ever hear that? That was good.
That was good.
That was a good one.
Right. Jake Shields doesn't seem as desperate. Or I don't want to say desperate, as motivated as he was. I mean, I don't want to say,
his
probably
body language is bad.
He always grinded out fights, and that's how he won. That's how he won against Dan Henderson. That's how he won. That's how he won all his fights.
Yeah.
Well, Dan can't cut the 185. Dan kicked the shit out of him in the first round, and then the second, third, fourth,
dropped
fifth.
him, popped him.
Oh god, so many times.
Yeah.
But he got too tired. He couldn't make that cut anymore.
Yeah.
That's why he fights at light heavyweight.
So it's another one there. I'm taking Tyrone Woodley.
Tyrone.
I think that's a good fight. That'll be a good fight to watch. I think Jake Shields sticks to people, like he'll get on your back and you can't get him off of you, like for the whole rest of the round. But I think Tyron Woodley has the wrestling and the intelligence, I think, to just kind of stay out of the way. He's 11-1, Tyron Woodley.
Nice.
So he's only ever lost once. I think he's you're a streak guy. You like to ride streaks and winning streaks and all that, and I think he's on one. So I think momentum is on Woodley's side. I mean, like Woodley in that.
The only fight he ever lost was to Nate Marquardt.
Yeah.
In Strikeforce, one of Strikeforce's final cards, and
Marquardt's a weird fighter.
He's either on or off.
Yeah.
And
Marquardt got the on Marquardt.
Yeah, he got the best Marquardt that probably had ever stepped into a cage, and.
Anyway, last thing here, final note. I just saw this as I was reading through some stuff. There's a guy named James Krause who is making his UFC debut, and his nickname is the James Krause.
The James Krause.
Which I thought was fantastic.
The James Krause.
Yeah. I hope Bruce Buffer introduces him like that. Right? He's fighting Sam Stout.
Oh, really?
He seems pretty good, actually. He's 6'2", fighting at 155 pounds.
Crazy.
Which I think if Sam Stout doesn't keep the right distance or close the distance properly, I think Krause could make that interesting. I don't really know a lot about him.
I did not look up this fight.
He seems like he's a sub guy.
I don't want to say
submission
anything
guy
that I don't know.
Yeah, that's okay.
It sounds funny. I would go with Sam Stout on experience.
Just based on knowing Sam Stout and all that.
UFC experience.
Yeah, that's about right. I think James Krause is Canadian. I think maybe they're filling out the card. I just love the nickname. James Krause.
I'm going to watch him.
James Krause.
Great nickname.
I love it. I mean, who comes up with this stuff? Anyway, that wraps up the podcast for UFC 161. It was an epic one. I hope you're paying attention.
Pay attention. What's
Hope you're
wrong
still
with
with us.
you? Tell your friends. Jesus.
If you could pick 3 fights to parlay together out of the ones we've discussed, which ones would you put together? Like, which 3 do you feel most confident in?
That's a good pick. Put Dan Henderson, Roy Nelson, and Ryan Jimmo. The top 3 fights.
Yeah.
If you put those together,
I was thinking the same
feel
thing.
good, feel confident about that because they're smart picks. And even if you happen to lose, it's not going to be because you made a bad decision or you didn't read it right. That's going to be an upset.
Yeah.
And,
Yep, it'll be some kind of weird upset.
Yeah, and all of these, besides Dan, all of the other 2 picks, Roy Nelson and Ryan Jimmo, are favorites. So it's better to parlay them into a 3-fight parlay.
Make some money, get some money worth. Yep. Yeah, I think that's a great parlay. Henderson, Nelson, Jimmo parlay would probably pay out pretty well. You'd get more than your money back, And if you wanted to go crazy with it, you could probably throw Alexis Davis in there too, just for a little extra. If you're not sure about the Henderson Evans fight, maybe you do Nelson, Jimmo, and Davis, and you ignore the 2 close ones.
There you go.
And try to make something out of that, So have fun with this, everybody. From the Peg in Manitoba, Canada, UFC 161 on pay-per-view. We're going to close this baby out for another DeepWaterMMA.com podcast. Check back before the next card. No promises. We have lives and we have other jobs and things. No promises. But before the next card, UFC 162, we will be back for some more breakdowns. So good luck out there. I hope everybody wins some money. And we will see you guys on the next podcast.
Peace.
Peace.